You are listening to the Kinetic Man Podcast. I'm Stuart.
And I'm David, and we want to walk with you on the journey to living a life defined by uncommon action that is full of purpose, adventure, and meaningful relationships. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours, and together achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to leave the potential life behind and become kinetic men.
What's up, everybody? Hey, this is Stu, and hey, this episode is going to be a little bit different. Today's show is a replay of a podcast that David and I were guests on. It's called Financial Advisors Say the Darndest Thing with A.B. Ridgeway. Lajuan is an amazing human. He is serving in a big way, and we just wanted to get this out there. We had a great conversation. We really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun. So go listen to this podcast. Go follow him. Go listen to his own podcast, Financial Advisors Say the Darndest Things, and just take in what Olajuwon says in this. Beyond just David and I telling our story, we dig into a lot of different topics and discussions here on this podcast about serving, about our faith, about being good stewards, and Olajuwon has some great information on financial advice. So just go take a listen.
As Christians, we were taught to be good stewards over our tithing and giving to the less fortunate. But when it came to our own personal finances and investments, we are clueless on what the Bible says. What does the Bible say about managing debt, leaving a legacy, investing, or even planning for retirement? We answer these and many other questions because we want to teach you how to be rich and righteous. If this is your first time to the show, we want to say welcome. If you're coming back for another spiritual refill, welcome back. I am A.B. Ridgeway, and this is Financial Advisors Say the Darndest Things. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm the host of Financial Advisors Say the Darndest Things in my mom's favorite Christian financial advisor. On this podcast, we help you, the Christian believer, make plans to make God proud. We make plans to buy a home, plans to invest, and even plan to travel to another state or country. But when it comes to our finances, why are we not making plans to make God proud? Well, on our show, we want to bring you exciting guests that are doing just that. Each have made plans to make God proud, and our next guests are no exception. It says in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Each of us have been given a skill and a responsibility to serve in that capacity. Think about it. Your talents are like a puzzle piece that fits perfectly in God's plan. And when we are jealous of other pieces and refuse to serve in the capacity in which we were blessed in an attempt to fulfill another position, it distorts God's vision and causes us pain. So, let's introduce today's show and bring in our guest. Today, I want to bring on two guests that have a solid vision. We will discuss how to take the hassle out of buying real estate, the importance of building a team around you when taking on real estate projects. And stick around, because we have a couple of questions from listeners like you. So if you are the leader of your household but feel lost because you don't have real men around you to fellowship with that shared value, that shared belief, and most importantly, that shared love of God and serving your family, you don't want to miss this. They have served our country honorably and with dignity for my freedom and yours. And now they are here to tell us about their mission to serve God and humanity through their real estate company. When asked about why they started their business, they state, our early conversations were not about goals for self-employment, profit, or wealth. The initial conversations were about how to create a faith-based business focused on giving back to the church and community that would enable freedom for its customers and team members. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the show two believers who want to help men become the heroes of their journey, the men their wives celebrate, and men their sons want to be, and the men they want their daughters to marry. With no further ado, I present to you Stuart and David. How you doing, guys?
Man, that's the best introduction that I've ever heard.
Man, I got goosebumps. Does anybody else have goosebumps?
Seriously,
I got them.
That was amazing, dude. Like,
Thank you.
That was.
I think you all deserve it. You know, I'm very excited to have you on the show. For all my listeners who have not listened to our episode where I was on your show, Phil in the Storehouse podcast, they need to go check that out. Right after the show, that's where we started this conversation about manhood, discipline, following God, and being patient. And today we're actually here to continue that conversation. So with your permission, I would love to get started. Is that okay?
It's great, man. Yeah, I love it. I'm fired up. I really appreciate you having us on. What an amazing conversation we had on our podcast, and I'm excited about where we go with this one. I'm Stu Grazier, and I like you said, military guy. David and I both actually just retired in June of 2022, and I was a pilot by trade in the military. And David and we were college roommates at the Naval Academy. So we go back quite a long ways. This was God driven, for sure, to put us as roommates and to allow us to stay roommates for all 4 years, which isn't normal for the school that we go to. So we have become, best friends ever since. We were actually lucky to be stationed together at one point in Naples, Italy. Our families, hang out all the time. David was there for the birth of my daughter, and we were both in each other's weddings. And we just had this vision to grow businesses together after the military. Both of us had been investing in real estate separately, and we both had, some experiences that weren't welcomed, and we didn't want others to have those exact same experiences. So early on, we had talked about going into business together after our military days. We didn't know when that was going to happen or how that was going to happen or why that was going to happen, but it all kind of formulated as we had these pretty bad experiences of our own. And so through that experience, we built out some real estate businesses where we were buying houses, rehabbing houses, and then turning them into rental properties, where we were selling those rental properties to our network, to other military veterans, friends, family. And then, that continued on our journey of business and reflection. And we've pivoted multiple times in those businesses and to where we are today, doing real estate still and now running a mastermind. And we can kind of dive into more of that story, but I'll let David talk. But before we let David talk, the small amount of time that we can give him, the better. So let's just give him a little small piece here, Olajuwon, if we can.
All right, we'll give him a little small piece.
AB, I'm just curious. Do you put video out as well?
Yes, we do put video out.
Because I just want to highlight for your listeners, if they're listening and they're not watching the video right now, I would highly encourage you just to stay on audio only so that you don't have to see Stu's face. I just want to put a disclaimer out there, or at least give them a heads up.
Look at this face. Look at this. Look at this.
Look at that. That's a handsome face.
My mama says I'm really good looking.
David doesn't want our videos to get flagged, I guess, obviously.
Yeah, right. Hey, and I want to make one point of clarification. I was there after the birth of Stu's daughter. I was not there for the birth. I just want to make sure that everybody understands there are barriers and limits to our friendship. But I also want to acknowledge you before I start talking about me, AB. There's a couple things. One, I am the power in a name, and I appreciate the fact that you refer to me as David Gutierrez, because that's my, being from Mexican descent. My dad's from Mexico. My family calls me David, and that's not a hit on any of my friends that call me David. It's just the thoughtfulness that you approach your relationships. I know the thoughtfulness you approach your business, the thoughtfulness with which you approach your listeners is so inspiring. And I just want to tell you, it's beautiful. I love it. Even to the level of detail. And we were talking about this before we start recording, but the level of detail of adding in the waiting room, God willing, this meeting is going to start on time, is just so meaningful. And I hope you recognize the honor that it gives to not only your guests, but the people that you're serving through the business that you do. Because you say thank you to service for us, being 20-year military guys, but we truly believe that if your financial situation is strong, that you are empowered to have the freedom to do exactly what God created you to do. And you always have the ability to do that, but to take something as significant as finances and have that in a way that honors God enables us to live our mission, our purpose. And so I thank you for your service to your clientele, to your listeners, to everybody that you're serving. It's powerful, it's impactful, and it's generational. And so I'm just very, very humbled to be here. And so AB, as you said, David Gutierrez, Stu alluded to it. We're both 20-year military guys. I don't want to bore you with the details of all that. It was an amazing career. It enabled me to take my wife all around the world. And my eldest child, she's 12 now. She got to move 5 times in her first 5 years on this earth and experience a lot of things and go overseas. And I have 2 more children, 2 boys, a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. And we're so blessed with our military career. And I can't speak highly enough about those experiences, but Stu and I, we love community. We love seeing men be the best possible men they can be, because we know that intentional men who are part of a tribe are most impactful, not only for themselves and not only to be the men that God created them to be, but they're the most impactful people for their wives. A very good man is a way better man for his wife, is a way better man for his kids, a way better man for his daughters and his sons. And so our mission now, and we kind of got there, Stu alluded to it, through real estate. But when we were doing our real estate, what we realized as we dug into it is we were really trying to build relationships and community of faithful givers and people that wanted to come together and do something bigger than real estate. And so we just finally landed on, hey, dude, if that's what we want to do, like, let's stop pretending to do it through real estate. We weren't pretending, we're trying, and just name it and claim it in faith and go forward and spend all our time doing that other thing, which is where we are now.
Yeah, I think that's very beautiful. I think a lot of people are under the misconception that if you're not in the pulpit, you cannot be as impactful to generations as far as spirituality is concerned, as far as progressing in the kingdom of God. And both of you are prime examples that you can do that, but you have to look beyond yourself. You can't just say, I'm going to do this on my own, or I'm going to do it this way. God's going to call you. I love what Stu said a little bit earlier. He said, you've pivoted multiple times. This isn't the first pivot, and I don't think it's going to be the last pivot that you're going to have. Is that this career, this ambition, this journey is continuously evolving and refining itself to something that's bigger and better and beyond ourselves to some point. And I love that fact where you said, sometimes we just need to step out of ourselves. Like David said, is like, we have this business and we were under this guise that this business was going to be the way that we were going to facilitate the message. And then we realized that, no, we need to have this a living, breathing, environment where men can actually go and establish good relationships. I want to hit one more point that I really enjoyed, was that you were roommates for 4 years. And I think a lot of people passed on that, is that for us to be good men and good fathers, we have to have good relationships with our friends, because most likely we're going to be in relationships with these individuals before we get married, our childhood friends from junior high, elementary, or high school. And if we can get along with alpha men, right, who are also going to be leaders, then it should be easier for us to make that transition. But if we don't have healthy relationships with our friends, if we don't have healthy relationships with our peers, then we can't transfer those skills over into a loving, happy relationship where we become the leader. And I just think that that point needs to be made. So I really appreciate your friendship. I really appreciate the fact that you stayed together and that you had common goals that you want to achieve. So let's continue on. So tell us a little bit more about the business, because I really think I love your idea. Let's talk about teamwork here. So this is not, hey, let's walk in, they're going to try to sell me a house and then they're going to walk out. This is something totally different, something outside the ordinary. So can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, for sure, man. So alluded earlier, David and I had been interested in real estate fairly early on in our military careers. We move every 3 to 4 years. You either have to decide to buy a house or rent a house. You have to find housing somewhere or another. And a few of our mentors have kind of mentioned, like, hey, buy a house at every duty station and then keep it and hold it as a rental property. So that's something that we had started doing. The problem with being in the Navy, at least, is those duty stations are typically very expensive locations. It's Hawaii, it's San Diego, it's Washington, D.C., it's Washington State. Those aren't cheap markets. And if you're looking from an investment perspective, it doesn't always work out from a numbers perspective. Like, you don't really get great return on investment unless you just hold it for a long time and you wait for appreciation. But from a cash flow and rental perspective, not the best markets. So David and I had searched for, what they call a turnkey real estate company. And I use air quotes for turnkey because there's a lot of different definitions for turnkey. There's some really good turnkey companies and there's some really, really bad turnkey companies. David and I found 2 bad turnkey companies when we invested. David had found a company in, I think they were out of Chicago, but they were selling houses in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I had bought some properties in Birmingham, Alabama. David had a really, really bad experience where they were fraudulent. Like they were telling him that, they put a new water heater in, but they didn't put a new water heater in. They just pocketed the money and kept it for themselves. And they were really just all about the bottom line for them. So David, and he can speak on it a little bit more, but he caught them in a big lie, and they were going to go to court, but they settled to the tune of what, like $20,000, David? Was that something around that amount? And in that process, we always talk, we were always comparing notes, and we were like, hey, we've been buying real estate for a while. We know what to do. Why don't we do this the right way? And through David's experience, he basically had to fire everybody and go find and build a new team on his own out of due necessity. Like he had to go find somebody to help him with those properties because they were in disrepair. They still needed work. He needed contractors. And oh, by the way, he didn't live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right? So through that process of just, calling, figuring out who could work with him, aligning in values and what, they could help with, we found, he really found, one key person that was there that helped him then go find other key people to help him out. And so to make a long story short, he and I started kind of working with that one person. We had bought some more properties, and we kind of put a business plan together through a lot of conversations around, like, what do we want in this business? What are our core values? What's the point of it all? Why are we doing this? Is it really just to build wealth for ourselves, or is it to tithe, to give, to serve others, to help others? And it was all of that. Right. It wasn't just, like you said in the beginning, about us making a whole lot of money. We wanted to give. We wanted to be givers. We wanted to tithe the first 10% of all of our profits from our companies, which is why it's called Storehouse 310. It comes from Malachi 310. We bring a tithe to the storehouse. So every single house that we sold, first 10% of the profits goes to a donor advised fund that we set up through the National Christian Foundation. And we then partner with charities that we love and support, and we give continuously. So that's a little of the background story. We started really heavy into real estate, buying and rehabbing houses. And David, I'll let you take it from here.
And just real quickly, interject here. You kind of said the buzzword donor advised funds. For those who don't know what that is, it's a charitable vehicle. I think my listeners know, but it's a charitable vehicle where you can get the tax write-off in the year that you make the donation, but then also you can control when those distributions go out into which charities. So you can work with the community foundation. Sometimes they have control, but you technically relinquish that control. You kind of advise with donor advisor funds. But it is a great strategy, and you can also make multiple contributions. So there are some limits for your contributions, but you can group those together to multiple years if necessary, but talk to your CPA as far as those are concerned. But if you are a truthful giver, a true giver, donor advisor funds are a great way to give, to manage your money, and also manage some of those taxes, because it is tax season coming up soon.
Yeah. And I just want to add, rewind just a tiny bit and add something that I think is really critical. And that's, when you talk about teams, there's also partnerships, and Stu and I are a team. And I'll tell you, in order to become, we were best friends, and we had a 2 decades long relationship, but we sat down and had some very, very serious conversations about us being business partners. And no kidding, we had, and this has endured to today, right? We had a conversation a couple of days ago where we're talking about our businesses, and I literally at one point said, hey, dude, we can stop all of our businesses right now, and we can dissolve all of our partnerships right now, but tomorrow you will be my best friend. Tomorrow, I will love your wife and your kids, and we will hang out and mountain bike and snowboard, and we will be together because you're my best friend. You're my brother. And so for us, you have to have conversations that may be tough for somebody, but you have to have conversations, especially where money and business are involved, where you're coming together. Like if we didn't agree on giving 10% of the profit from our business, like that would be a pretty significant gap, right? Like, well, I want to give 10. Well, what are you talking about? I don't want to give anything. This is the money we're making. Like that's a really awkward conversation when you're into the business. So we're having conversations like that. We literally said, hey, dude, what happens if I have this amazing opportunity that comes up and I want to pursue it and I can't do business with you? Are we friends? And we talked through that. We talked through what are our core values. We spent a ton of time on core values, and we based our core values in biblical verses. Every one of our core values is based in Bible verses. And then we break it down even further into personal application and how we'll do business with others. So this partnership, this team thing, I see too many people jump into partnerships together very quickly, and they don't understand. They don't even really know. They could be their best friend, but they don't know how their best friend is going to react when you lose money, because it's business. You're going to lose money at some point, right? And ideally, you make more than you lose. So how do you deal with losing money? Okay, well, like, let's have that conversation. And so I just want to really highlight, people jump over the due diligence phase. We put more due diligence, let me put it this way, we put more due diligence in our relationship and our business partnership than we put into any deal that we've ever done. Guaranteed, 100%. Spent way more time before we spent a single penny on a property. We spent way more time, and we were best friends for 20 years, and we still did that. So I think it's critical.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think a lot of businesses fail within that first 5 years because they refuse to do a business plan. They refuse to put in the effort for the marketing, the operations. There's a lot of strategy that comes into it. And I think we talked about transferable skills of relationships. So this communication aspect that you're coming together, you're talking out potential problems, not what you have because you're best friends, right? But potential problems. How will you react? Hey, what are some scenarios that may break us apart, and how will we react now before we're put in those situations? And I think we talked about these transferable skills as men, but when you get into a relationship with a woman, a lot of people aren't vetting their women as well. They're not taking the time to learn about them. Hey, if we have children, do you want children? Having those tough conversations. How do you react when you see a towel on the floor? Do you blow up, or is that something that you don't mind? Those are type of questions and answers we need to do to vet our relationships with our women that make us better men. And that's why I said I love you guys, because you took your relationship, and that's probably why you're the men that you are, is because you gave each other the respect that you deserved. And I'm sure if you gave it to Stu, you're going to give it to your wife. Almost like you said, your relationship's not that close where you're laying next to each other. So if you can respect Stu, you can respect the person who's laying next to you.
So sometimes our wives get jealous because they think that we hang out more than we do with our wives, and which could be possible at times, but yeah, they get a little jealous sometimes.
Yeah, well, we talked about that on the last episode, that men do need to have a large majority of their time fellowshipping with other men to learn how to be better leaders, because how we lead at 20 is not the same as we lead at 30 or at 40 or at 50 or at 60. We need to continuously refine our skills to get around men with new perspectives, new ideologies, and bring some of those tools to our families so everyone can be successful. Happy wife, happy life. But if the man's not happy either, then all of it kind of just falls apart from there. So let's make a little bit transition here. I do have a question from James Thomas. He was a listener of our last episode. He has a question. He says, why does real estate seem to be the primary thing investors talk about when building a wealth of portfolio?
So we may have some different thoughts on this, Stu. I honestly believe, and you said his name is James?
Yes, James Thomas.
James Thomas. I honestly believe, James, that it is a very shiny object syndrome. And I'm a huge believer in real estate, and I love real estate, and we could go into all the details of how real estate pays and what the benefits are, and there's a lot of great things, but I'm also passionate about real estate. And when I say real estate, I can niche it down to I for whatever reason, have recognized that I love single family homes. And this is not like the easiest asset class, right? Like it's kind of a pain in the butt, single family homes where, and I have my personal reasons for that, but part of that, it feeds a passion to provide a safe, comfortable, beautiful home for other people to live in, And so there, it feeds a part of a passion, right? But I think what's critical in investment and investing in finance is that you really spend some time to figure out your why. Like, why do I want to invest in this thing? Maybe I want my investments to be super passive and I don't want to spend any time on it. And so I talk to someone like AB and we come up with a really great strategy, and I have a certain amount of money goes out every month and it populates these things and someone else is managing it. I think you should be cognizant. I think you should be educated on that, but maybe that's where you're at. Real estate is can be a pain in the butt. Like everybody talks about the glory of it. Nobody wants to talk about my tenant didn't pay this month. I had to evict. It was a very uncomfortable conversation. The pipe burst, the toilet broke, all the stuff that comes with real estate. They don't talk about that, and you just see it as easy money. And so I think there's an element of romanticizing and just giving like the really good details of real estate and not talking about the other stuff. So I think that's part of it. But for me personally, to answer your question, James, I'm passionate about giving people a place to live that can honor them, and also recognizing that God has blessed me in a way that we can do that. Because like our rehabs, people would look at us and be like, you guys are crazy. Why are you spending so much on that? And for us, it was like, well, because that's a person's going to live there, and that person could possibly have kids and they're going to be in that house. Like I want it to be something that they're proud of, even though it's not theirs. And they're going to take care of that better. Ideally, they're going to be proud to bring people over there. Ideally. Right. And so for me, it fed a why, not so much a how or a what.
Now that David's like completely talked you out of investing in real estate, let me give you just a few ideas on why people do say that real estate is a great investment. One, it's a physical asset. It's a physical product. It is a house made with brick and wood that is sitting on land, right? It's controllable. You can update it. You can do things to it. You can put tenants in it. It doesn't move. It stays there for long, long periods of time. If, some CEO of a different corporation says something on Twitter that doesn't impact your physical asset of land, of a house. So that's one thing that I love about real estate. Another aspect of real estate is you can use leverage to buy it. You don't have to have all of the money yourself to buy it. You can borrow money from a bank at a certain percentage of interest, depending on the market. And so you can leverage other people's money to go buy an asset that's going to, over time, increase in value. And oh, by the way, you can then have a tenant, a renter, live in that house that's going to pay that mortgage for you. So leveraging other people's money to go invest is a really great thing about real estate. You can't necessarily do that so much, if you're just kind of putting money into the stock market, where basically you have to use only your money. You can't go borrow money from a bank to then go put it right back into a stock. And correct me if I'm wrong, Olajuwon. Maybe I am
legally,
wrong.
right? Or
yeah.
there's things.
Yeah, there's probably some ninja ways.
There's some
Olajuwon
margin
knows
accounts.
about, but
you can have some margin accounts. You can actually borrow stocks and things of that nature. But I love this, right? And I'm gonna tell you why I love both of these perspectives. So all of my listeners who are listening to you right now, what you just witnessed is the benefits and downside risk. And we talk about this all the time, that no matter what investment you get into, whether you're in cash, you still have inflation risk. I don't care if you invest in Amazon, you have idiosyncratic risk or business risk. There's a risk associated with everything. And what David did was he gave you the downside risk, and then Stu gave you the upside potential. And I think when you're going to have a full perspective on if this is going to be a choice that you're going to have in your financial plan, you need to know both. And I love how David addressed the fact that the reason it's popular because a lot of people want to talk about the benefits, but they don't want to talk about the downside risk. And then what Stu talked about was everything that you don't see on social media. You don't see, he didn't talk about the suits. He didn't talk about the cars. He talked about having land, having property, being able to leverage, and the financial aspect of getting these properties and what's going to be a good investment. And I'm going to tie all this together is because I have a friend. He has property out in Detroit. He may have about 6 or 7 different properties that he's managing right now. And he has to call a bunch of contractors. He's almost like David. He had to like build this team. So for those people, as far as team building, is finding these individuals, can you talk about storehouse? Now, David said something very important. He said rehab. And I think a lot of our listeners may have missed that. But that keyword rehab is where he's restoring that house up to par. And I think a lot of people may have missed that. So not only do you have a house, he's making it livable. He's the one that's getting the inspectors. He's the one making sure that the water heaters in place, because a lot of these construction workers, I mean, no offense to them, but they'll come in, they'll give you this beautiful blueprint. Oh, we're going to have this. We're going to have this island. This is what your estimate's going to be. And then they said, well, we couldn't fit the island. Well, did you take that out of the cost? And a lot of people don't think about that. So now you just pay for an island that quote unquote can't fit. And now you're losing $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 over the course of this construction. And all you're thinking about is how great the house is. So for my friends like Joseph Vega, who's out in Detroit, how does storehouse rehab? That's one. But then also that whole full turnkey of finding this team, right? Because they say if you want to go fast, you go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you have to have a team. So can you tell us about this team element, building the team as we kind of lead into a commercial break coming soon?
Yeah. And you know, what's also great about Stu and I is we're very complementary, right? And so a lot of times I live at an elevation that's a bit higher. Like my mind goes not higher from a qualities perspective, but higher from a perspective of just being bigger picture. And not that Stu doesn't live up there and is very strategic, but it's interesting because when it comes down to like, so when we do a deal, for example, I love building teams. So like I'm the guy that's calling the realtor. I'm the guy that's calling the contractor. The contractors are usually Latinos, so that, you know, we have a connection because I speak Spanish, they speak Spanish. And so like, I love all that. I'll go out on the ground and I'll be with those teams that we're setting up and I'll vet them. And there's a lot of relational stuff that I enjoy. Stu, I honestly got to the point where our team would send us a deal. They'd be like, here's a deal, here's a potential deal. And I need you guys to look at it. And I would effectively be like, oh yeah. No, I'll check that out. And then I would just wait for Stu to analyze the deal and be like, hey, Stu, what did you think of the deal? And he's like, oh, I like it. I'm like, yeah, me too. And he
never looked at it.
I never looked at it. I honestly, and at one point, not too long into the process, I was like, Stu, you know, I don't look at these deals, right? He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, but I trust you and you're so good at it. In all honesty, you're so good at it. So there's an element that you're talking about, AB, as team. You want to go long. You want to last a long time. Dude, I would get burnt out if I'm looking at these deals. Honestly, I would get absolutely burnt out and be like, this is terrible. I never want to invest in real estate again. But because I didn't have to do that, I love it. And I love our partnership and I love our team. Our realtor, we found a good realtor. She goes and looks at deals and analyzes and sends me the bottom line, sends us the bottom line, right? She loves doing that. I don't. So let her do that. You can go far. You can do business for years because I'm not getting burnt out on that. Our contractors, I don't have the skills or the quickness to put new floors in, like our standard rehab, new floors, new roof, all the walls painted. Sometimes you're ripping walls out, new toilets, new bathrooms, new tile. Like you're doing all these things, complete rehabs. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fly to Milwaukee and do that. So we have awesome contractors. That's their job. That's what they do. That's what they love. We pay them well and they can do that forever. And so our business can go very, very long. But at the point, I really enjoy those relationships and that team building. Stu loves looking at the deals and analyzing and checklists and all that stuff that I'm like, and so it works really, really well.
Well, and there's one other word that I've already used. It's leverage. Instead of using people's money, now you're using people's skills and time. And resources, that you're leveraging other people to build a great team, and you're all working together with the same purpose, the same mission, and you just go farther, faster.
Well, I think this is a good time to take a short break, take care of some housekeeping items. One, if you're not signed up for our newsletter, be sure to go to www.abrwealthmanagement.com/podcast. Sign up to receive notifications of upcoming shows, get first priority for questions to be answered on the show, and receive financial tips and strategies so you can be rich and righteous. And two, if you're recently retired or need help managing your retirement account, whether 401ks, 403bs, or IRAs, sign up for a free consultation by going to our website, www.abrwealthmanagement.com. Click book a call and speak with a Christian financial advisor that will help you take your financial plan and turn it into God's plan. So stay with us as we go into part 2 of this discussion right after a short message about Stuart and David's Storehouse Mastermind, where you can finally be the kinetic man God has called you to be.
Storehouse Mastermind is an opportunity for us to get together as men. It's something that we set up, that we started because we saw a gap in our own lives. We saw that we just were not fulfilled in some of the other masterminds we were in, some of the business focus of those masterminds, and we really wanted to bring high-performing men together and have fun, have accountability, have vulnerability, depth of conversation. And it just was really important to us to set up the mastermind.
The mastermind has been significantly impactful. So I left the Navy a couple years ago, and while I love my time in the Navy, one thing that I quickly realized is I didn't have the accountability and another man to press me to be a better man, a better husband, a better father. I'd read a book and that'd be great, but to have the accountability as part of Storehouse, to have an accountability call and an accountability, a weekly check-in with a group, a weekly check-in with another man has helped me take that book knowledge and apply that book knowledge to my family and to myself.
Connectedness and fellowship and friends and fun and encouraging each other and holding each other accountability to always becoming better every single day, like holding each other accountable, lifting each other up, and being the best that we possibly can every day.
And look, we've been super inspired by people like Simon Sinek, talking about whys and purpose and a just cause, and really what we want to get after is this just cause of defeating loneliness among men, right? Getting past the weather and sports teams and getting into conversations that build each other up, and we challenge one another to be better. And you cannot get in a group of men like this and leave here unchanged. You can't get with a group of men like this on a weekly basis and not be better. They're going to challenge you. They're going to call you out. And so for us, it's really getting after this epidemic of loneliness and this misunderstanding of what a man should be, and us living lives that others tell us that we should live as men. That we want to get past that and get back to the virtue of what it means to do this kind of stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah, frequently the conversations that we have within the group of men, carry on throughout the week or the month. We might focus on faith or finances or whatever that might be, and it's often a really good time for us to take those conversations and ask questions of our spouse or our children, and kind of see what they think as a family and not just us as an individual.
These relationships are growing to be incredibly important because, as I felt like I was coming into this Storehouse Mastermind as kind of at the top of my game, I'm realizing that I'm surrounded by 15 other dudes that are at the top of their games. And so it's not me pushing them, it's them, all 14 of them pushing me exactly in the same way that I felt like I was going to be pushing them. So it's incredibly beneficial.
Continuously opening up new houses. Typically we try to do 10 to 15 men per group. That way we can get close with each other, connect, have fellowship, and we're going to be opening up more houses soon.
Yeah, bring your tear ducts, man. Bring your tear ducts, because we're gonna get some
and smiley faces.
And smiley faces.
Yeah.
You get the tears on, get the smiley faces, you get meaningful relationships, just profound conversations, and just amazing time, right? You get some fun.
So since we brought it up, I think this would be a good time to transition and talk about your Storehouse Mastermind group. But before we do, I want to read something I was sent from one of our listeners. I told them to go back and check out your group because I believed it was something that was very powerful. And it reads, I'm sure they get this all the time, but what they are doing is so needed. Men need camaraderie, accountability, and real support, not competition and judgment. It almost brought me to tears watching the intro video because it's the same thing I want to do with men, and it's something I'm missing in my own life. So with a strong response of what you are doing, can you walk us through the process of creating such an inspiring group?
That's it's very humbling. And I'll tell you, I think what is affirmation, at least for me, is when I hear men, and I have no idea who this listener is, but when I hear the true struggle, and we've seen it so much with men, it truly touches me and makes me emotional. I think the emotions from God, to be honest with you, to touch my heart and be like, man, just one more guy. Like we just need to keep reaching one more guy, because we know that it's within them to be the man that God created them to be the man they want to be, and to be the man that their family wants them to be, and that there's no judgment in it, and that it's a beautiful freedom to be able to experience these relationships in a different light, right? To experience I feel so fulfilled knowing that what we are currently doing is something that God put on my heart, and it just gives me passion and energy and drive every day. But the fact that we've designed it, this is a life by design, not only by God's design, but by our intentional actions and design, that we are taking actions together, me and Stu, to become those men. So when we go today, after we get off this call, we're going to go downtown, and we've set up an open invite to just create community. I have no idea who's going to show up, but I'll tell you that the two people I know are going to show up are me and Stu. And if it's just me and Stu hanging out, having lunch, what is bad about that? There's nothing bad about that. We have had an amazing morning, talked to a bunch of men this morning about this loneliness epidemic, which, I think your listeners probably getting after as well. We did that. We come onto an amazing podcast with a man of God and have a great conversation. And then we go break bread together. That's awesome, but it was all planned. It's all on my calendar. Every single element of today was planned beforehand. And so I think, to talk about, just to briefly wrap up, because we do a lot with these men, but to briefly wrap it up, we have created an environment where men come together in fellowship, but we make it extremely intentional to get after our calendars, our relationships, and to make each other uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable, so that we grow. Because we know in that discomfort that growth happens, and in that growth, true change and freedom are the result. And so it's where we're focused now, because we see it so much, is men just need to get together in person. Like if you and I were sitting in this room, AB, having this conversation, after we wrap this conversation up, I'd give you a hug. And I'd be like, dude, this was awesome. And we'd embrace. We can't do that on Zoom. But that hug transfers a love, something we were created to do. It transfers that, and we experience that together. We create that environment where men come together, and we're also intended to do hard things together. We're intended to challenge one another. We're intended to dive deep in conversation, and we play games. We do some competition, but it's fun. It's friendly. We laugh. We talk trash. We do this thing. There's a fake champion at the end, and everybody claps, and it's great. But we're competing, and it's beautiful, right? And then we have amazing guest speakers come in and talk to our hearts and get deep and vulnerable and cry. The amount of time Stu cries, it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, Stu's crying again.
I'm a crier.
Everybody cries. It's amazing. But dude, all these things need to happen together in person. And so our retreats are really what we've been focusing on now, and getting as many men there as possible. Because if the men hear it and they realize, okay, I'm not alone. Other men struggle with this. Like my porn addiction, let's be real. My porn addiction is not my addiction alone. A lot of men are struggling with this. the way I talk to my kids and my wife is not honoring to God, them, or myself. Other men do it. We can all come together and be like, okay, I'm not alone. I have somebody to talk to. And these guys are awesome. They're ninjas. They're dudes I want to be with. And they struggle too. Cool. And the best part about it is we say, okay, here are the things we can do about it. Here's the actions that we can take to change right now.
That's beautiful. Stu?
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job of putting it all together. I mean, the tactical steps of that, we have small groups. We have 10 to 15 men paired up in a group, so much like a church small group. They meet weekly on Zoom to have an hour-long discussion. We came up with what we call the real paradigm, and we have what we call the kinetic life circle. There's 10 focus areas that we discuss, and we get real in each one of those. And what I mean by that is we reflect on what that means. Like what does success look like in your family? Define it, and then write it out. And then we go execute. What can you do to make yourself 1% better every single day for your family? And then you're accountable to it. You are paired up with an accountability partner in that small group, a one-on-one accountability partner, and you are told, hey, connect with this person, tell them what you're going to be doing, be held accountable to it, check in with each other. And then we figure out a way to live it. So REAL, how are you living every single day of your life to become better in that area? What are you putting on the calendar? Are you doing a daily check-in with your wife? Are you taking your kids on dates? Are you doing date days with your spouse? What are you doing to make yourself better in that category? So we do that every single week on Zoom for an hour. And then what David was talking about, we do these quarterly retreats where we go find a super awesome place. And we're doing one in May. It's in Empire, Colorado, in this 200-acre retreat in this big lodge. And we're going to go, do something hard. We're going to go on a hard hike. We're going to play these games that David was talking about. We're going to have an amazing guest speaker. We're going to all come together. We're going to break bread. We're going to have a private chef. We're going to sit around a campfire at night and get vulnerable and be real and talk about, our challenges in our life and come with solutions and then go act it out after we leave. So, it's been empowering for us because honestly, it's somewhat selfish because it's the things that we needed in our life. It's what we were missing in our life. And so we just went and built it, and we just surrounded ourselves with men that were on the journey with us.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I like what David said. He said fake champion at the end of the day, but you're all champions.
No, I was the champion. I was the champion of the last event. Okay. I'll just throw that out there.
Like I said, fake champion.
But I love what Stu said. Obviously, and I love what he said. He said, men come with their problems, they find solutions, and then they go act it out. It's 3 parts to this here. It's not where you just go and you vent and you just let men listen to what you're talking about. You have accountability partners. One thing I loved about one of the programs I saw was the person was saying, hey, what does your business finances look like? Have you taken a look at your business? Like, what are the numbers? Have you taken the responsibility or accountability for your cash flow and things of that nature? So I really appreciate those little clips. So if you go to their website, they have a bunch of clips about this retreat, and you can actually see it in person. One of their videos are actually in the snow. They're all dressed up, and you can see the beautiful scenery and people playing in the background. These guys are living what they're speaking. They're not just talking. These people are actually put into action, and that kind of leads into that kinetic man. So we have a question from Josh McGlon. He's of Oxford, Mississippi, and many of you may know him from Real Talk with Real Men, where men have an outlet to talk about their perspectives about life and hear from the perspective of other real men. Something like what we're doing here: relationships, sports, money, cars, etc. He also does filmmaking surrounding mental health issues around men. But don't quote me here, but I think the channel is at Real Talk Unlimited. And his question seems to be a 3-part question. So we're going to take each part individually and then follow up with the rest, if that's okay with you, David and Stu. Is that okay? So the first part, he asks, your group is very niche, veteran Christian entrepreneurs. So his question is, how do I find more men like me, ambitious Christian businessmen in his area that are not at his church or in his immediate area?
Well, first thing I would say to Josh is come join us in May 1 through 3. We very intentionally niched down because we recognize we wanted to ensure it's effectively who we are, right? We are veteran Christian entrepreneur men. And so we were speaking to those folks, but there's men in the group that are not veterans, they're not Christians. I mean, I'm extremely happy to report one of the dudes recently came to Christ, and like, you talk about powerful, right? Like, come on, man. You can't, we're not talking about gas prices and the weather and like you said, AB, we're not complaining about our situations. We're doing stuff about it, and men are changing. And so, we are relatively niche in how we come across and talk about it, but that's because who we are, right? I love Jesus. There's a verse there, and I was 20 years in the military, so there's a plaque there. But there are folks in our group that are none of those things, and there are guys in the group that are not entrepreneurs, but they want to be entrepreneurs. And so, what better way to do it than surround yourself with men who are already striving and rowing in the same direction? And so, our group is not exclusive. And especially for the retreats, it's an opportunity to get a taste of what is possible and what is possible with an amazing group of men. And so, and I guess to answer the question more broadly that Josh asked, it just takes a level of intentionality, and you attract what you're putting out, right? Like we made a joke today challenging the men in the group. Hey, go on Facebook and put something out, a post or wherever you are, and say, hey, I'm just looking for friends, and this is who I am. See what happens. I mean, the worst that could happen is nobody responds, and you're like, nobody wants to be my friend. But what's most likely happening if you get no responses, especially as a man, it's because there's a bunch of dudes that are not confident enough to respond. They want to, and they probably typed out the response and they deleted it. And, they're going to judge me. And dude, we all want it. We all want it. I don't care who you are, you want it. And then when you taste it, you want more, and we need it. And it's a blessing. So Josh, May 1 through 3, come out.
Well,
be awesome.
And let me add, we had a podcast guest say this, and it stuck with me. And he said, the number of opportunities that you have equates to the number of hellos you put out into the world. The number of hellos you put out into the world. Say hello more. Like, you're at the park with your kids, and there's another dad there with his kids, and you guys are just hanging out separately. You see him out of the corner of your eye. Go say hello. Ask him what he's up to. Ask him what he does. Get to know him. Create a relationship. Hey, do you come to this park often? Let's come together and bring our kids more often. Let's hang out. Let's start talking. You never know where that goes. If it's God-driven, it's going to be an amazing opportunity, right? And so,
dude,
say
that
hello
sentence
more.
has been a life changer.
Totally.
Stu, Ben Killoy is who said that, the dad coach on LinkedIn. He said that to us. And what's interesting, I just want to give you the practical output of this, AB, is I believe I reached out to him because I was intrigued by something else, the dad coach part of it, scream-free parenting. I was intrigued by that. So I reached out to him. He became the guest speaker at our last retreat. And then he said what he said on the podcast, and I was standing next to a dad at my son's basketball game, and I said, hello. He's now going to be our new guest speaker. And this dude is amazing. Like, talk about God-driven. This guy, like, what he's going to run the dudes through retreat at, I'm getting goosebumps because I'm so excited. He's like, I'm not going to tell you everything because I want to ruin it for you. He's like, but it's going to be rad. And he gave me a taste. And I was just like, oh, dude, this is going to be powerful. Like a lot of tears powerful. I'm super excited about it. But it came because I looked at this guy and was like, hey, I'm David. Who's your kid? And it immediately went into like, oh, this is what I do. And I'm like, okay, can you come be a guest speaker? Yes. Okay, cool.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I guess this kind of leads us to the second part, because his question was, how do you build trust amongst the men that you may not know? They may not know you, or other men that may attend these classes. And I think you hit on it, is saying hello. That's how you build the trust, is like once they get a taste of who you are, what you are, and then also too, that they become vulnerable. I think that's where you're going to build that trust at. So let's go to number 3. What advice would you
real
give
quick,
to someone?
AB, if you don't mind,
Oh, sure.
If we can anchor on that question real quick. One thing I want to highlight and be very intentional with this. When you join our group, or when you come into our group, there's 2 ground rules, because we always do a pre-interview: honesty and vulnerability. You have to bring those 2 things. And one thing that we do, everybody has to sit on a hot seat and basically give 30 minutes of the biggest challenge in their life right now. And if they start going down, oh, my car broke down, the dudes in the group, and if they don't, Stu and I are like, nope. How's your marriage? How's your relationship with your kids? That's what we get into. And so to create that trust, vulnerability, and it's so hard for us as men.
Wow, I get that, right? It's like, if you're not willing to trust us, there's no way you're going to be healed. You have to open up. You have to be willing to put it all on the table, because we can't fix what we don't see. That's awesome. So finally, what advice would you give to someone who wanted to start something similar in their area, who has a concept that they want to grow? So, how do they approach that? Maybe the program, or how do they go about that?
And I think the answer is just start it. Just do it. Like, take the action and go do it. Whatever you have in your brain, go do it. And if it's awesome, it's going to grow. People are going to show up. And if you go into it in a way that where you're doing it to serve others and impact the world, and that is a mission, and it's God driven, and there's purpose and meaning behind it, it's going to be an amazing thing. And so, whatever you have in your brain, just take it. And as we've done in our businesses, you're going to pivot, you're going to change, you're going to make updates, you're going to get, feedback, and you just grow. And, as soon as you're willing to fail, as soon as you're willing to be uncomfortable, that's when things start to really happen for you. So I'd say just start it. Just go do it. Don't be afraid that it's going to fail. Don't be afraid if nobody shows up. Just continue and change and pivot and grow from it.
I'm going to piggyback on here just a little bit. I'm going to let David chime in here. I just want to say this to the listener. Josh, if you're listening to this right now, I want to say to you, no man can know everything, but if you get around the right men, you can know anything. So if you really want to know how to run these programs and things of that nature, my advice would go to Stu, go to David, go to one of these retreats, see how you feel, see how it makes you feel, because looking from the outside, you may not get that same feeling and the same motivation and things of that nature. So, get around people that have the same mindset as you, people who have the same motivation as you, have the same resources, or the resources that you're trying to achieve. And you get to pick up the nuances that makes them successful. So like David mentioned about real estate, once you're in real estate, you see those nuances of the contractors and things about, how they maybe manipulate a blueprint, or how they may not put so many nails into the roof to hold down the flap. So, you get a leaky roof or whatever it may be, but you get to understand the nuances. So I encourage you to get around men that are just like you, like-minded. Build your team like David said. Sometimes you're going to have to fire your whole team that you have right now, and you're going to have to build a whole nother team. If you're missing switches, or people fall off, they're not vulnerable, they're not trustworthy, you have to get rid of them. You have to cut away the dead vines, almost like Jesus talks about the grapes. You have to cut down the dead leaves so you can grow and you can prosper. So, David, I'm going to let you wrap up that last question for us as well, because I know he's got something good for you.
Amen to what you said, man. It's hard to follow. It's hard to follow, AB. You should talk less during your interviews, AB, because it makes your guests feel uncertain about themselves because you drop so much wisdom. I'm just playing. But, I love what you said there. And it's who you surround yourself with. And that is, Stu and I oftentimes talk about you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with, right? And so we are very intentional with that. And so I think that's great advice for Josh. 2 things I think you need to ask yourself as well. 1, am I willing to do this for free? Do I love this so much that I'm willing to do this for free and add value until it potentially makes money or whatever it is? And I think you have to come out with a business mindset as well. Like, okay, if I'm trying to create a business, it has to be a viable business. All that stuff is great. But if you're coming at it from a value add and a passion perspective, are you willing to do it for free? It's just a question that you should ask yourself. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's a great thought exercise. And the second one, so I'm also a coach. And what's really interesting, that I got some advice recently that I was like, wow, and it seems obvious, But I think a lot of people are attracted to coaching for the potential of high paying clients and making money and all this kind of stuff, right? That's how I see it marketed a lot. I was listening to my own personal coach and another extremely well-regarded coach. Both said the same thing, slightly different. They said, are you trying to add value to the person across the table from you, or are you trying to make money? And that one only has one right answer. If you shouldn't even be considering the money part of it and the business part of it when you're adding value to someone else. That should be your 100% primary effort in life, is to see them grow, to see them succeed, to see them break through, to see them overcome strongholds, to see them succeed. And if you can be honored enough to be a part of that, amen. And so that was really, really, I found myself going down the path of, okay, how much am I going to charge a client, this, that, the other, and really struggling. I was like, you know what? I am going to add as much value to this person as I possibly can, because it's within them and I know it's within them and we can unlock it. And I'm excited. And it changes everything. It changes everything.
That's beautiful. I have a friend, Donald Williams. He's a lawyer. We started our businesses around the same time, and we talk about that too. It's like our conversations are not frivolous, like you said, about the weather or what the sports teams are doing. It's like, what about your family? Like, how are you improving? How's your mental health? Are you okay? And that helps us grow. So whether we speak on the phone for 30 minutes to an hour every 2 weeks or every month or whatever it may be, we get to build and we get stronger, whether in our faith. And when he succeeds, I feel like I succeed. Like you said, it's like, hey, I closed this big client. Like, oh yeah, that's great. Like, I'm excited. And they actually say that you get the same endorphins or release or dopamine release when you give as when you receive. So, when people are successful and you're truly invested, you get that same feel good feeling. So ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, all things must come to a close. And this episode is no exception. We were truly blessed to have Stuart and David on the show today. You are both a wealth of knowledge and experience, and I wish you both nothing but success. And the great part about it is that this episode is going to be roughly around an hour, but this is not even a 10th or even a 20th of what they could provide for their company and the mastermind itself. I'm telling you, go to their website, check them out. There's going to be more information, but this just gave you a deeper look at David and Stu behind the website, behind the program, and meet the men that you're going to meet. Right? Too many times people hide behind their egos. They hide behind their brand, but David and Stu are consistent. I've spent probably about 3 hours at this point, right? An hour of my time, an hour here, but they're consistent. They're funny. They have a great relationship. They are what we believe are the leaders of men. The ideal. Now, are they perfect? No. Do we put our trust in men? No. We focus on God, but God is going to have these mentors around us as good examples, because what Stu may be strong in, David may be weak, and what David is strong in, Stu may be weak. So we just want to make sure we surround ourselves with so many men that all these qualities improve. So as a final farewell, would each of you like to share some final thoughts and let them know where they can connect with you? Because those who hear this, whether now or next month or next year, I want them to come to you.
Man, you drop some bombs, man. You drop some gold bombs. It's awesome. It's awesome. Hey, I really, really appreciate this. This was a fun conversation. We could probably go another hour easily. We might have to do like round 2 with you or something like that. So I want to give a resource that it actually wasn't David and I that came up with it. It was another man in the Storehouse Mastermind that came up with it. This idea of like the role that you play in your life, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a leader. What roles do you play? So we actually came up with an exercise that runs you through that. It runs you through like, all right, hey, as a dad, what roles do you play? Are you a father? Are you a mentor? Are you a teacher? Are you a lover? Are you a friend? And define that. And then how do you act on that? Write out like what your action steps are to go through that process and understand how you can become a better in that role as a father. So we give that out to free for listeners, for your listeners. If you want to go to storehouse310.com/rolls, then you can get that PDF. We actually did a webinar on it. You can watch the webinar on how to go through that exercise. It's really helpful. It was impactful for us to go through that ourselves, and then just you're adding things to the calendar on what you can do in that role as a father, as a husband, whatever you decide.
David?
Yeah, I just really just want to take the opportunity to thank you again, AB. I'm absolutely just honored that you have us on your podcast, that you came on our podcast, and I just love the fact that you're what you're doing in the financial world, but also pushing it all back to God, and pushing your listeners to a higher purpose, because a lot of times we just get stuck at this surface level, worldly level of finances, and there's so much more. And there's so much to unlock there, and there's so much beauty in it, and passion, and purpose. And dude, you are on the front lines of that. And talk about leadership, man. I'm just inspired by what you do, dude. And the fact that you had us on, just love it, man. Love it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words. They are humbly accepted on my behalf. And I believe that we are going to be a reflection, right? The hellos are going to be a projection of who you are, and the compliments back, I really appreciate it, to let us know that it's confirmation that we're on the right path, and that we're doing the right things, and that other men see those qualities in us. Well, that is it from us at Financial Advisors, say the darndest things. We hope that you've been blessed, and make sure that you subscribe and visit our podcast homepage, where we have over 135 episodes ready to download to get you one step closer to living the life God has called you to do. I am AB Ridgeway, and I'll see you on the other side of your blessing. I hope that you've been blessed. As always, this episode was created by AB Ridgeway, owner of AB Ridgeway Wealth Management, a virtual and in-person fee-only advisor that believes that financial advice should have God in it. If you need help figuring out your finances, feel free to reach out to us at 337-414-3686, or visit our website at www.abrwealthmanagement.com and schedule a free consultation. New episodes are available every Friday, so be sure to subscribe. You can also listen to our podcast on your favorite platforms: Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and more. Or simply visit our website and join our family. I am AB Ridgeway, and I'll see you on the other side of your blessing. Olajuwon Ridgeway is an investment advisor representative and owner of AB Ridgeway Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor which produces a podcast show and makes it available on its website and through other distribution channels. Olajuwon Ridgeway and any guests on the podcast are providing their own views and opinion and are not necessarily the views and opinions of AB Ridgeway Wealth Management. Nothing on the podcast should be construed as solicitation or offer or recommendation to buy or sell any specific security. Investment advisory services are only provided to investors who become AB Ridgeway Wealth Management clients pursuant to a written investment management agreement. Clients of AB Ridgeway Wealth Management may hold positions in securities discussed in the podcast. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk and may lose money. Financial advisors say the Darndest Thing podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for any investment decisions. Instead, please consult a financial advisor, accountant, attorney, and or conduct your own due diligence.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Like we said, a little bit different as guests on the show, but it was fun either way. Hey, before we sign off today, I wanted to tell you about a couple things going on. Did you know we have a Meetup page? If you go to meetup.com and you search for Kinetic Men events, we post local meetups that we're doing in Colorado, where we get together and we go do fun things. They're typically on Thursdays. We go hiking, we go mountain biking, we go snowboarding, or we just go have a coffee or go have a lunch. So if anyone is locally, in Colorado, go check that out. We also post webinars on there. We do webinars, and then we also do retreats. We do 3-day retreats. We talked about that on the podcast episode. But if you're interested in surrounding yourself with high-achieving men that want to become better husbands, better fathers, better friends, check that out. It's also on the Meetup page. There's a link there to register for that event. The next one is September 27th through the 29th in Empire, Colorado. We have an amazing facility, 200 acres on a big ranch, and we have amazing guest speakers, amazing food, and we just go get after it and have a lot of fun, a lot of fellowship and connection, and it's really, really good time. So check that out. You can also go to our website, thekineticman.com, and there's a big button at the top to get to that Meetup page to see what else is going on. in our space. So enjoy that. Go check it out and have a great day. Take action.
Thank you for listening to the Kinetic Man podcast. If you are growth-minded, community-focused, and willing to take uncommon action to redefine success and live an abundant life, visit our website at www.thekineticman.com to see all the ways we could connect.
And on our website, you can find more information on everything we're doing, like joining our Meetup page to get the details on our webinars and our local Thursday gatherings here in Colorado. From our site, you can also find more information on and sign up for the next Kinetic Man retreat and the next house of our mastermind group. Finally, we always appreciate your love and support. Please share this episode and go rate us on your favorite podcast player of choice.
Thank you again. Now go take uncommon action.